They are trying to develop relationships with their teachers and their classmates, and they're going to, with this coming and going, they're much less likely to develop the mastery of skills that's going to create that strong sense of self as a student. And that psychological aspect of learning begins early and sets the foundation for a life of learning.
Oftentimes our students with High-Churn, they come in and they have so many SEL needs that they sometimes are violent or sometimes are angry. And sometimes we have our stable students being impacted by trauma at the school level from students who need support in that area. Throwing chairs and tables and desks, or just being very emotional or very sad. Some of the other students in the class become scared, and the teacher now has to manage teaching reading and also managing these emotions in her classroom.
Just to kind of refresh on what everybody mentioned around defining the problem, what's really interesting is if you think about all of the different stories you heard about a student who might be in temporary living, or a student who has health or social challenges, a student who's academically far behind, I think we can all probably agree that student probably has needs that are individual and need to be met, right? So take that one student and then think about a third of your student population having those very unique needs, right? So if we zoom out and we think about a third of the student population having these unique needs, think about what the teacher's needs might be in that classroom to meet those individual students' needs, the principal's needs in that building to support all of the teachers around making sure those needs are being met. These are very unique challenges. Another thing that hasn't been really mentioned today is very often these teachers are going into very challenging situations that have very large academic ranges in terms of student performance. Just because you have a high-churn school doesn't mean that there aren't a number of students in your classroom who are performing at or above grade level. But very similarly, you're going to have students who are performing, in many cases, far below grade level. And those ranges exist in every classroom across the city, but they tend to be exacerbated in these high-churn environments. So how are we also preparing a teacher not only to think about the social supports that a child might need or the health supports that a child might need, but also preparing that teacher to address the very large academic range that they might be dealing with in their classroom? Like, that takes a very unique skill set.
Not everyone is meant to teach in a high-churn school. Our chief and our network, we talk a lot about this word grit. Grit is a real thing. And so when we're evaluating, I may have to take a teacher who knows a little bit less about content, less about instructional practice, and take someone who is not going to quit in February, who's not going to quit in March or say that these kids are unteachable. So those are the constant tensions.
We always say we can teach you about literacy, we can teach you about how to teach children to read, we can teach you about the SEL strategies, but you have to have a mindset to want to be in our schools. And that's been the most difficult part of it, because it is hard.